So today I'd like to talk a little bit about these developer diaries and what they're supposed to be and how the sausage gets made and all that. Probably this would have been a good idea to save for the 200th, or rather use for the 200th episode spectacular. I did a similar one for the 100th episode where I just talked about how I would cheat and film them in batches and sometimes change t-shirts. I haven't been doing that lately. You'll probably see the next few with the Double Fine Adventure t-shirt because I sort of queue up ideas and find it easier to sit down and record a bunch at once. So certainly I've drawn some criticism for my use of it's like, you know, and while I'm trying to be better in this particular video, I think it's difficult to speak without doing that. The alternative is long and awkward pauses, and I don't know if it's part of my OCD, but I find it difficult to speak at a consistent pace because my mind is thinking about 3 other things, and so I have to, you know, keep feeding my mouth with information while planning like 10 steps ahead. And, you know, internally my monologue is criticizing my hand gestures and then trying to figure out what I should be doing. Maybe I should just be a Muppet and wave my hands like that. So the question is, should I be preparing these and should I be rehearsing these? So if you want to hear an example of me public speaking and doing a good job at it, you can check my GDC talk on obsessive compulsive development. And when you do a GDC talk, they're very clear, like, this is a professional thing, you know, don't just get up and, I don't know, rant, or, well, I guess they have some rants, but basically they want you to prepare it, and they say, like, I can't remember what the number is, but it's like 20 to 30 hours of preparation, and certainly I put a lot of preparation into my GDC talk, and I rehearsed it, and I had it so basically I more or less had the entire broad strokes of the talk memorized, and so Kelly Santiago, who's involved with IGF, good friend of mine, she said, like, the worst is, you know, boring PowerPoint presentations, and I'm like, crap, because PowerPoint is a crutch, right? You can just put what you want to say, just read it off and paraphrase, which was totally my original plan, and I'm like, yeah, I would never do something like that. So the entire presentation is video and images. I mean, with a few exceptions, some numbers. There's one slide where I put all of our technical features, and it's like 80 things long, and I don't even bother reading it. So for these video diaries, why don't I prepare 20 hours for each? I mean, because that talk was 25 minutes, and I don't know, 20 hours of preparation. Certainly, I think, you know, at 3 a week. For lately, I've been averaging 11 minutes or thereabouts. So I'm creating basically 30 minutes of content a week. You know, that would be half of my work week to prepare, or over half if I wanted to do a really snazzy job. But fundamentally, I think this is different than what I tried to do with my GDC talk. I think this is meant to be informal. You're meant to see me talk, and while I will readily admit I'm not the best public speaker, I think watching me talk is interesting, and more interesting than just having the audio version. And certainly some people have requested an audio version, which I think would be interesting, but there's not like good hosting for that, and I'm too cheap to pay like Amazon Web Services and do all the conversion. Whereas YouTube, it's so easy. You just, you know, well, I do minimal editing, as I mentioned in an earlier video. You know, just to get things out fast. And not waste a lot of time on things, you know, because I mean, essentially this is like sort of disposable, right? I don't expect anyone to go back and say, oh, I'm really into this series, let me watch all 200 and whatever leading up to it. What I think is that it provides an interesting snapshot in into what I'm thinking about at any point in time, and you can follow me along on the development journey. And because I'm providing just a snapshot into my brain, I'm just letting you in and expressing my thoughts. I think it's more interesting than if I prepared or rehearsed or tried to create something that would perhaps better represent the company. I don't really see these as like a PR and marketing thing. I see them more as a community building thing, and I think the honesty is the best part about the community. And it's interesting, sometimes I go back and rewatch my videos. I try not to, because I already know what I'm going to say and they're not super interesting, but it's, yeah, the thing that strikes me sometimes is how much you can tell about how I'm thinking and feeling from my body language, which would be lost in an audio podcast. But and I don't know, maybe I just know my own body language, but lately I've seen myself do stuff like that, or I don't know. I can't remember, but I remember I was doing something like that. And I think that I was showing sort of how I was nervous, how I was a bit uncomfortable. I don't know, I don't remember exactly what I was talking about, but the idea is that they're supposed to be very honest. I honestly would wish I had the time to write like a well composed blog and put my thoughts into writing, and certainly I enjoy reading a lot of other developer blogs, but usually developer blogs aren't updated super frequently with a ton of content, just because I think when you put it in the written form, it's a lot harder. You have to make your sentences sound intelligent or very clear. I do a lot of revision, and perhaps it's my OCD again, but I almost obsessively revise, so it's very difficult for me to do a blog post. Even emails, I spend too much time on emails, rereading what I said, and so this format for me is the easiest to get my thoughts out there. And several people have asked me, is it worth it, right? So let's say I spend maybe an hour a week doing developer diaries. So that's 1/40 of my work week. I usually try and work a little more, but and then certainly for those of you who follow along on the forum, I spend a good deal of time on the forum as well. And is it worth it? And I always say yes. And while I don't really have concrete numbers to back that up, and these videos only get 100 views, I don't know, lately I can't see the YouTube window, but I don't know, they've been like 60 or 70 thus far. I don't know, maybe they just need more time, or maybe after I haven't done a Kickstarter update in a while, and normally I link to those, and maybe that drives a lot of traffic. But even if I'm only getting like 70 views a video, I still think it's worth it, because the idea is that I don't want people to leave our community. I don't want people to lose interest in Neverending Nightmares and Infinitap games and all that stuff, because I think as a developer, your community is your greatest strength. Like, look at Kickstarter. We didn't have a lot of Kickstarter community going into Kickstarter, but if you look at developers that do, it's a lot easier for them. And I mentioned, we're going to do another Kickstarter. That's just the way the economics have worked out. But I've also mentioned that I would have wanted to do a Kickstarter anyway, although it's sort of a different mindset if you have to do a Kickstarter versus you want to do a Kickstarter. Certainly, if you just want to do a Kickstarter, you can set the budget a little more reasonably and not stress about it. If you have to do a Kickstarter, then you have to set the budget a little higher. So I think by providing the developer diaries and interacting on the forum, I keep people invested in the community, but and certainly that pays off for, you know, spreading the word of mouth, and see, this is where I would say and but now I'm just gonna make a funny face while I remember what it was I was gonna say. Oh, now I totally derailed it. But basically, yeah, it's more than just having people involved so you can sell the next product to them. At least for me, I think a lot of it is getting people's thoughts and feedback. And certainly there's been a lot of discussion on the forum, including some people who you know, maybe didn't enjoy Neverending Nightmares as much as I would have liked. You know, and I find it interesting that someone who, you know, wasn't fully satisfied with the product is willing to commit a lot of time to basically shaping the next game. Obviously, you know, I'm the captain of the ship, and I'm not gonna give up control, and I'm not gonna do things that I think, you know, aren't the game I want to make. But I do think it's helpful to have these second opinions, and I do appreciate all the help sort of driving the ship, and certainly I think that these developer diaries spur a lot of the conversation. So that's why I do them, that's why I think they're worthwhile, and I hope you enjoy them. Thanks!